The discovery. Security Officer Cashin Drake's boots echoed against the polished floor of the Stellar Horizons hydroponics bay as he conducted his routine inspection. The massive garden chamber was the pride of Earth Alliance's flagship, a testament to human ingenuity in space. But something had been bothering him about the night shift botanist, and tonight he intended to confirm his suspicions. Through the crystalline panels, artificial starlight bathed rows of exotic plants in a soft glow. That's when he saw her, Naira Voss, the newest addition to the science team, working late as usual. Her platinum-white hair seemed to capture and reflect the light, creating an almost ethereal halo around her slender form. For 3 months, Cashin had been collecting evidence. The way her skin seemed to shimmer under certain frequencies of light, her unusual expertise with alien plant species that weren't in her official background, and most tellingly, the strange resonance readings his scanner picked up whenever she was nearby, readings that matched no known species in the Alliance database. He moved silently between the hydroponic arrays, his muscular frame concealed by the dense foliage. Years of special operations training before joining ship security had taught him the art of moving unseen. As he drew closer, he could hear her humming, a haunting melody in no Earth language he'd ever encountered. Naira was focused on a specimen of luminescent flora, her fingers dancing over its petals with practiced precision. She hadn't noticed him yet, which gave Cashin the perfect opportunity to spring his trap. "Those are Etherian star blossoms," he said quietly, stepping out from behind a towering fern. "Fascinating choice for someone supposedly from the Centauri colonies." The effect was immediate. Naira's entire body went rigid, her hands freezing mid-motion over the glowing flowers. When she turned to face him, her violet eyes, now clearly visible without their usual color-dampening contacts, were wide with alarm. "Officer Drake," she managed, her voice steady despite her obvious shock. "I didn't hear you come in." "Drop the act, Your Highness," Cashin said, moving closer. "Or should I say, Princess Nairalith of the Etherian High Court." A subtle change came over her then. The careful mask of the humble botanist fell away, replaced by something more regal, more dangerous. The air around her seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. "How long have you known?" she asked, her accent now carrying the distinctive musical quality of Etherian nobility. "Long enough to gather proof." Cashin crossed his arms. "The question is, what's an Etherian princess doing hiding on an Earth Alliance vessel, pretending to be a botanist?" Naira's gaze darted to the exits, calculating her options. "If you're going to arrest me, Officer Drake, I suggest you do it quickly. Though I warn you, I won't go easily." "If I was going to arrest you, we'd already be walking to the brig," Cashin replied. "I want to know why you're here first." "The truth." She studied him for a long moment, those violet eyes seeming to peer into his soul. Finally, she reached up and removed the pendant from her neck. The air around her shimmered, and her carefully maintained human appearance melted away. Cashin couldn't help but stare. Her true form was breathtaking, skin like opalescent silk that seemed to capture and reflect light, hair that moved as if caught in an invisible breeze, and those eyes now glowing with their natural luminescence. "My world is dying," she said simply. Not in the metaphorical sense that humans so often use, but literally dying. "Our sun has become unstable. In less than 5 years, it will expand and consume everything in our system." "The Alliance offered aid," Cashin countered. "I remember the diplomatic broadcasts. They offered to evacuate 10,000 of our people," Naira spat, anger flashing in her eyes. 10,000 out of billions. They would cherry-pick our scientists, our artists, our most valuable citizens, and leave the rest to burn. She turned to the star blossoms, touching their petals with gentle reverence. "These flowers are extinct on my world now. The last gardens withered 3 months ago. Soon, everything I've ever known will be gone. So you came here looking for what? Technology? Information?" Cashin pressed. "Hope," she replied softly. "The Alliance has terraforming technology that could save my people. We could relocate to one of our outer worlds, but we need help making it habitable quickly. Help that was denied us because we refused to submit to Alliance authority. Cashin felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His duty was clear: report her presence immediately. An undocumented alien royal on the Alliance flagship was a major security breach. But something in her words, in the quiet desperation of her mission, gave him pause. If you're discovered, he began. I know, she cut him off. Imprisonment, interrogation, probably execution for espionage. But billions of lives are worth the risk. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could see the subtle patterns that shifted beneath her skin like starlight on water. The question is, Officer Drake, what are you going to do with this information? Before he could answer, the hydroponics bay's alert system flashed red. Attention all personnel, the ship's AI announced. Atmospheric anomaly detected in Section 7. Please evacuate immediately. Naira's eyes widened in genuine fear. The star blossoms, she whispered. Their pollen is toxic to humans in high concentrations. I was conducting an experiment to neutralize it, but now we're both trapped in here with it, Cashin finished, already feeling his throat beginning to tighten. He reached for his emergency breather, only to find the pocket empty. Of all the nights to forget his basic equipment. Naira grabbed his arm. I can help you, but you'll have to trust me. Her skin began to glow brighter, patterns of light racing across her flesh. And afterward, we'll have to talk about keeping certain secrets. As his vision began to blur, Cashin made a decision that would change everything. He nodded once, and Naira pulled him close, pressing her luminescent hand to his chest. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the strange, beautiful pattern of lights dancing across her skin, like stars being born in the depths of space. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything he believed about duty, loyalty, and the price of doing what's right, dangerous propositions. Cashin Drake awoke in his quarters with a pounding headache and the lingering taste of stardust on his tongue. The events in the hydroponics bay felt like a dream, but the subtle shimmer of opalescent residue on his uniform confirmed everything had been real. Princess Niralith of the Etherians, hiding as a botanist on his ship. And he had let her go. His security comm chirped with an incoming message: medical examination required for all personnel exposed to Section 7 incident. Below it was a personal note from Naira: my quarters. 2,200 hours. We need to talk. The medical bay was crowded when he arrived. Dr. Julian Reed, the ship's chief physician, looked up from his datapad with concern. Officer Drake, you were in the thick of it, weren't you? Your exposure levels were highest, yet your symptoms are remarkably mild. Just lucky, I guess, Cashin replied, careful to keep his expression neutral. He knew the real reason: whatever Naira had done to him had protected him from the worst effects of the pollen. Lucky indeed, came a voice from behind him. Lieutenant Commander Varian Kane, head of ship security and Cashin's direct superior, stepped into view. His cybernetically enhanced eye whirred as it focused on Cashin. Interesting how our most experienced security officer happened to be in the hydroponics bay during an unauthorized experiment. Routine patrol, sir, Cashin said, meeting Kane's gaze steadily. Right place, wrong time. We'll see. Kane's artificial eye pulsed red briefly. Full report on my desk by tomorrow morning. After enduring a battery of tests, Cashin was cleared to return to duty. He spent the rest of his shift reviewing security footage from the incident, carefully editing out certain details before submitting his report. As 2,200 hours approached, he made his way to the civilian quarters, his mind racing with questions. Naira's quarters were modest by design, part of her cover as a simple botanist. When the door slid open, he stepped into a transformed space. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers, and soft bioluminescent orbs floated near the ceiling, casting everything in an ethereal glow. She stood by the viewport, still in her true Etherian form, her opalescent skin reflecting the starlight. Thank you for coming, she said, turning to face him. I imagine you have questions. Starting with how I survived a lethal dose of alien pollen. Cassian remained near the door, maintaining a professional distance. My people can share our biological energy, our essence, with others, she explained. I used it to temporarily alter your physiology, making you resistant to the toxin. It's an intimate process, usually reserved for those we trust implicitly. And now you think that creates some kind of bond between us? One that buys your silence? A smile played at her lips. No, Officer Drake. I have a different proposition for you. She moved closer, each step graceful and deliberate. I need access to certain restricted areas of this ship. Areas that your security clearance could help me reach. You're asking me to commit treason, Cassian stated flatly. I'm asking you to help save billions of lives. She was close enough now that he could see the complex patterns shifting beneath her skin. In return, I offer you something few humans will ever experience, the knowledge and pleasures of my people. Cassian's breath caught as she reached out, her fingertips barely brushing his chest. Where they touched, waves of sensation rippled through him, not just physical pleasure, but colors he had never seen, sounds that existed beyond normal hearing. He caught her wrist, gently but firmly. And if I refuse? Then report me, she said simply. But know that others are already hunting me. The Crimson Dawn faction believes my death will spark a war with the Alliance. The Progressive Coalition wants to use me as leverage for technological trade. And those are just the Etherian factions. Earth has its own interested parties. As if to emphasize her point, the ship's alert system suddenly blared. Security alert in civilian sector C, unauthorized energy signature detected. Naira's expression turned grave. They're here. Cassian's training kicked in. He pulled her away from the viewport seconds before a beam of energy pierced through it, missing them by inches. The emergency force field activated immediately, preventing decompression. Your quarters were supposed to be shielded, he grunted, covering her with his body as another blast struck the force field. They must have a tracer, she gasped. Someone who can detect my true form. Cassian keyed his security override into the room's control panel, initiating a level 2 lockdown. We need to get you out of here. There's a maintenance shaft behind the environmental control unit. It leads to the cargo decks. Why are you helping me? She asked, even as she moved toward the hidden exit. Because right now, you're the only lead I have to whoever's breaking into my ship. He drew his pulse pistol, checking the charge. And because I don't like being manipulated, by you or anyone else. As they slipped into the maintenance shaft, Cassian's comm crackled with Lieutenant Commander Kane's voice, all security personnel, we have multiple intruders aboard. Class 5 containment protocols are now in effect. Be advised, we're dealing with Etherian technology. Standard weapons may be ineffective. Your people? Cassian asked as they crawled through the narrow space. No, Naira's voice was tight with concern. The energy signature was wrong. This is something else. Something worse. They emerged in the cargo deck, among towers of supply crates. Cassian did a quick sweep with his scanner. 3 hostiles moving this way. 2 more covering the main exit. I can cloak us both, Naira offered. But it requires skin contact, and it will be intense. Cassian weighed their options as heavy footsteps approached. Do it. Naira pressed against his back, her arms encircling him. The sensation was overwhelming, like being immersed in liquid starlight. He could feel her heartbeat, her thoughts, fragments of memories not his own. The attackers passed within meters of their position. Through his altered perception, Cassian could see them clearly, humanoid figures in dark armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Shadow Corps, Naira whispered in his mind. Elite assassins. They don't work for any known faction. Someone very powerful wants me dead. Once the immediate danger passed, Naira released him. The separation was almost painful, leaving him gasping and disoriented. "That's twice now you've shared your abilities with me," he said, regaining his composure. "Won't your people consider that a betrayal?" "My people consider many things betrayal," she replied bitterly. "Including trying to save them from extinction." She touched his arm gently. "I trust you, Cassian Drake, not because I have to, but because you've proven yourself worthy of trust. The question is, can you trust me?" Before he could answer, his comm unit chirped with an encrypted message. His eyes widened as he read it. "What is it?" Naira asked. "Orders from Fleet Command," he said grimly. "They know you're aboard. I'm to detain you immediately, dead or alive." The air between them grew heavy with tension as they stared at each other, both knowing that everything had changed. The game they were playing had just become deadly serious, and they were running out of time to choose sides. Shadows of truth. "We need to go. Now." Cassian grabbed Naira's arm, pulling her behind a stack of cargo containers as heavy footsteps echoed through the deck. His mind raced through their options, each one worse than the last. The order came through a classified channel, he whispered, checking his tactical display. "Only 5 people aboard have that level of clearance. And one of them is your Lieutenant Commander Kane," Naira finished, her opalescent skin dimming to match the shadows around them. "The man with the cybernetic eye." "A prototype," Cassian confirmed grimly. "Quantum-enhanced visual processing. He can probably see through your biological cloaking." A sudden burst of energy fire forced them deeper into the shadows. Through the chaos, Cassian's trained ear picked up the subtle whir of Kane's artificial eye scanning the cargo bay. "I know you can hear me, Drake," Kane's voice echoed. "Your vital signs are quite distinctive after exposure to Etherian energy. Did she tell you why she's really here? What her people are planning?" Naira tensed beside him. Cassian felt the familiar tingle of her energy reaching out to him, seeking connection. He allowed it, and her thoughts flowed into his mind. "There's something wrong with his cybernetics," her mental voice whispered. "The quantum signature, it's Etherian tech." Cassian's blood ran cold. The implications were staggering. "How did Earth Alliance get their hands on your technology?" "They didn't," she replied heartily. "Unless." A massive explosion rocked the cargo bay, sending containers crashing around them. Through the smoke and chaos, Cassian caught glimpses of the Shadow Corps engaging with ship security. But something was off about the fight. The attackers weren't trying to kill, only to contain. "This way." He led Naira through the maze of fallen cargo, heading for a maintenance access point he'd memorized years ago. As they ran, his security comm crackled with disturbing reports from around the ship. Multiple breaches in sectors 7 through 12. Engineering reports quantum fluctuations in the core. Medical bay overwhelmed with cases of unusual radiation exposure. They reached the access point, but before they could open it, a figure stepped out of the shadows, Dr. Julian Reed, the chief physician who had examined Cassian earlier. But now his usually kind face was twisted with cold purpose, and he held an Etherian energy weapon. "I'm sorry it has to end this way," Reed said, his voice carrying an odd harmonic quality. "But we've waited too long to let you ruin everything now." "Julian?" Cassian kept his body between the doctor and Naira. "What are you talking about?" "Show him," Naira said quietly. "Show him your true form, Ambassador Carrion." Reed's human appearance shimmed and dissolved, revealing the opalescent skin and ethereal features of an Etherian, but unlike Naira's luminescent beauty, his form was threaded with dark lines, like cracks in a crystal. "Very good, Princess," Carrion smiled, the expression devoid of warmth. "I should have known you'd recognize me, even after all these years. He was my father's most trusted advisor." Naira's voice was thick with betrayal. "Until he disappeared during the first wave of solar storms." "Disappeared?" Carrion laughed. "I ascended. I saw the truth that your father was too blind to see. Our son's death isn't a natural phenomenon, it's a weapon. One that the Earth Alliance has been developing for decades. Cashin's mind reeled. That's impossible. The Alliance wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Kane's voice cut through the darkness as he emerged beside Carrion, his cybernetic eye glowing with Etherian energy. Wouldn't develop a way to hold entire civilizations hostage. Wouldn't use the threat of stellar extinction to force compliance. Naira stepped forward, her own light pulsing with anger. You're lying. Earth doesn't have that capability. Not Earth, Carrion corrected. But certain factions within the Alliance, working with progressive elements of Etherian society. Your father's stubborn independence threatened everything we'd worked for. He had to be shown the cost of defiance. You're killing billions of your own people, Cashin growled, to force them into an alliance they don't want. We're saving them. Kane snapped. A unified galaxy under Alliance control. No more wars, no more chaos. Just order and progress, guided by those with the vision to do what's necessary. Cashin felt Naira's hand slip into his, her energy intertwining with his consciousness. In that moment of connection, he saw fragments of her memories, her father's growing paranoia, the mysterious deaths of scientists who questioned the sun's deterioration, the careful manipulation of evacuation proposals to ensure they be rejected. The Shadow Corps, she whispered. They're not assassins. They're your honor guard. The last true Etherian warriors, Carrion confirmed. Loyal to the vision of a united future, not outdated concepts of sovereignty. Cashin's tactical training kicked into overdrive, noting positions, angles, potential weapons. They were surrounded, outgunned, with no clear escape route. But in his connection with Naira, he felt something else, a plan forming in her mind, desperate and dangerous. Your conspiracy has one fatal flaw, she said, her free hand moving to a pocket of her clothing. You assumed I came here looking for weapons or technology. She pulled out a small crystal, pulsing with internal light. I came for proof. Carrion's composed facade cracked. The quantum core, how did you? My mother wasn't just a queen, Naira's voice carried the weight of generations. She was head of the Royal Science Academy. Before she died, she discovered something in the solar radiation patterns. Something artificial. Something that pointed directly to this ship. Kill them, Kane ordered, raising his weapon. Kill them now. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Naira's energy surged through their joined hands, amplifying Cashin's reflexes beyond human limits. As Kane and Carrion fired, he spun them behind a cargo container, simultaneously drawing and firing his pulse pistol. The quantum crystal in Naira's hand flared with brilliant light, interfering with the Etherian weapons. The proof is already transmitted, she shouted over the chaos. A quantum-encrypted burst, sent through the array you so helpfully gave Cashin access to when you had him examined in medical. Carrion's roar of rage was drowned out by another explosion, this one from within the ship itself. Emergency klaxons blared as the vessel's artificial gravity fluctuated. Warning, the ship's AI announced. Critical system failure detected. Quantum core destabilization in progress. What did you do? Cashin asked as they ran, energy bolts sizzling past them. Gave them a choice, Naira replied grimly. Save the ship or catch us. From what I know of Alliance protocol, they can't risk losing their prototype stellar weapon. They reached a small maintenance pod bay, useful for external repairs but not meant for long-distance travel. As Cashin quickly prepped a pod, Naira sealed the bay doors. The evidence is real, he asked, helping her into the cramped pod. Real enough to expose everything, she confirmed. But only if we survive to deliver it. As the pod ejected into space, Cashin watched the stellar horizon growing smaller behind them. His home for the past 5 years, now revealed as the center of a conspiracy that threatened entire worlds. Through their lingering connection, he felt Naira's mix of triumph and sorrow. There will be hunters, she said quietly. Let them come. He set coordinates for a nearby trading outpost. We have work to do. The pod's small engine hummed as they accelerated away from the ship, carrying with them the seeds of revolution and the weight of worlds. Behind them, the stellar horizon's quantum core stabilized, just as Naira had predicted. But their victory was only the beginning. The real war for the future of both their peoples was about to begin. Celestial dance. The trading outpost of Haven's Edge hung in space like a tarnished jewel, its ramshackle structures built from salvaged ships and ancient space stations. It was a place where questions weren't asked, and credits bought silence, exactly what Cashin and Naira needed. Their stolen maintenance pod docked in a shadowy corner of the station's lower levels. Cashin helped Naira out, noting how her usually bright opalescent skin had dimmed from exhaustion. The quantum crystal containing their evidence was secured in a hidden compartment of her clothing, its power signature masked by illegal scrambling technology they'd acquired 3 stops ago. "You need to rest," he said, supporting her as they made their way through the crowded corridors. "The energy transfer you used during our escape, it took more out of you than you're admitting." "We don't have time," Naira insisted, though she leaned heavily against him. "Carry-on's agents could be already here," a familiar voice finished. They spun to find a figure emerging from the shadows, one of the Shadow Core warriors, but without their light-absorbing armor. Her natural Etherean form was marked with the same dark crystalline patterns as Carry-on's, but there was something hauntingly familiar about her features. "Hello, sister," the warrior said softly. Naira's grip on Cashin's arm tightened. "Lyra? But, you died in the first solar storm." Father said. "Father said many things," Lyra cut her off. "Most of them lies." She gestured to a nearby doorway. "We should talk privately. Unless you'd prefer to discuss family matters in front of all these lovely witnesses." Cashin's security training screamed that it was a trap, but Naira was already moving forward, drawn by emotions he could feel radiating through their lingering connection: hope, fear, anger, love. The private room Lyra led them to was sparse but secure. As soon as the door sealed, Naira confronted her sister. "You're working with Carry-on. With the people trying to destroy our world." "We're trying to save it," Lyra countered. "Just not in the way Father wanted." She paced the small room, her movements carrying the same deadly grace as her sister's. "Do you know what it's like to be the spare? The second princess, kept in reserve in case something happened to you? I was never going to have a chance to help our people, not until Carry-on showed me the truth." "The truth?" Cashin stepped forward. "That the Alliance is using stellar manipulation as a weapon?" Lyra's laugh was bitter. "The Alliance isn't using anything. They're being used, just like our people. There's something bigger happening, something even Carry-on doesn't fully understand." She pulled out a data crystal, its surface covered in fractal patterns. 3 weeks ago, I discovered communications between Carry-on and something else. Something that's been manipulating both Earth and Etherean politics for decades. The stellar weapon. It's not Alliance technology. It's not even from this galaxy." Naira took the crystal, her hands trembling. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because despite everything, you're still my sister." Lyra's hard expression softened slightly. "And because I've seen what happens to worlds that give in to their demands. The Alliance thinks they're going to get advanced technology in exchange for cooperation. What they're going to get is extinction." Cashin's tactical mind raced through the implications. "The Shadow Core, how many of them know about this?" "Most of them are like me," Lyra admitted. "Second-born nobles, disgraced warriors, all looking for a purpose. Carry-on feeds us just enough truth to keep us loyal, mixed with carefully crafted lies." She turned to Naira. "But he fears you, sister. Your connection to the old powers, the pure bloodline, it's stronger than anything his treatments can create." As if to demonstrate, Lyra held up her hand, showing how the dark crystalline pattern seemed to eat away at her natural luminescence. "This is what his improvements do to us. We're stronger, faster, but we're burning out. I've got maybe 2 years left before the changes become irreversible. Naira reached for her sister's hand, but Lyra pulled back. Don't. The corruption, it can spread through energy transfer. That's why I couldn't contact you directly before. How did you find us? Cashin asked, still not fully trusting this convenient ally. I've been tracking you since you left the stellar horizon, Lyra admitted. So have others. There's a kill team 3 levels up, and Carrion's personal squad is 2 hours behind them. She checked a concealed communicator. You've got maybe an hour before. The station's emergency sirens cut her off. Through the viewport, they watched as a massive ship dropped out of hyperspace, an Earth Alliance dreadnought. That's the Eclipse, Cashin breathed. Fleet Command's personal warship. Kane must have called in some serious favors. No, Lyra's voice was tight with fear. That's not Kane's doing. They're here. She grabbed Naira's arm. The crystal you took from the stellar horizon, you have to destroy it. Now. The evidence, Naira protested. Is useless compared to what I just gave you, Lyra insisted. Please, sister. Trust me one last time. The dreadnought's energy signature suddenly changed, its massive hull beginning to glow with familiar patterns, Etherian technology, but twisted, wrong. Cashin made the decision. Give me the crystal, he told Naira. When she handed it over, he smashed it against the floor, grinding the pieces under his boot. Lyra nodded in approval. Good. Now. The viewport exploded inward. Emergency force fields snapped into place as dark-armored figures poured through, their weapons trained on the group. Behind them floated a being that defied description, humanoid but wrong, its form shifting between states of matter. The Shadow Corps thanks you for your service, Lyra, the being's voice echoed in their minds. But your usefulness, like your sister's, has ended. Naira's hand found Cashin's as energy weapons powered up around them. Through their connection, he felt her gathering power, more than he'd ever sensed before. I'm sorry, she whispered, both aloud and in his mind. What I'm about to do, it will change everything. Before he could respond, Naira's form erupted with brilliant light. The last thing Cashin saw was Lyra diving toward them, her corrupted energy merging with her sister's pure power, as reality itself seemed to tear apart around them. The being's inhuman scream of rage was drowned out by the sound of multiple dimensions colliding, and Haven's edge trembled as ancient powers, long dormant in Etherian blood, awakened once more. The real war for survival was about to begin, and nothing in Cashin's training had prepared him for what was coming. Starlight's choice. Consciousness returned to Cashin in waves of sensation. First came the feeling of Naira's energy still intertwined with his, but different now, deeper, ancient, like touching the heart of a star. Then came awareness of his surroundings. They were no longer in Haven's Edge, but in a vast chamber that seemed to be made of living crystal. Welcome back, Naira's voice echoed strangely in the space. When he opened his eyes, he barely recognized her. Her form was pure energy now, barely containing a humanoid shape, trails of stellar fire flowing from her like solar flares. Beside her, Lyra floated in a similar state, the dark crystalline corruption in her system now burning away under waves of purifying light. What did you do? Cashin managed, discovering that his own body seemed to shimmer with borrowed starlight. She awakened the celestial temple, Lyra answered, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. The ancient heart of Etherian power, hidden in fold space since the first migration. Through their enhanced connection, Cashin saw fragments of history, the Etherians' true origins as beings of pure energy, their decision to take physical form to interact with younger races, and the power they had sealed away to prevent its misuse. The beings controlling Carrion, Naira explained, they're like us. What we used to be. But they never chose to evolve, to grow. They've spent millennia manipulating physical races, encouraging technological development, then harvesting that technology once it reaches a certain point. A massive viewscreen of pure energy formed in the air, showing them real-time images from across the galaxy. Dozens of worlds, their suns being systematically destabilized. Populations being herded toward alliance membership, their resources and innovations being secretly siphoned away. All this time, Lyra whispered, we were helping them destroy everything. The chamber shuddered as something massive impacted it. Through the crystalline walls, they could see the Eclipse firing weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. They're trying to breach the temple's defenses, Naira said grimly. They know what I'm planning. Which is what, exactly? Cashin asked, feeling the temple's power thrumming through him. To remind our people what they really are. Naira's form flared brighter. The celestial temple isn't just a place, it's a key. A way to reawaken the dormant power in all Etherian blood. With it, we could save not just our world, but all the worlds they've targeted. But? Cashin prompted, sensing her hesitation. But the power can't be controlled, only guided. Once released, every Etherian will have to choose, remain in physical form and lose the power forever, or transcend back to our original state. Tears of pure light fell from her eyes. Either way, our civilization as we know it ends. Another impact rocked the temple. Through the view screen, they watched as more ships emerged from hyperspace, shadow core vessels, their crews already being affected by the temple's energy. They're transforming, Lyra observed. All of them. The corruption is burning away, leaving them pure again. The being from Haven's Edge appeared before them, its form now clearly visible, a mass of dark energy barely contained within a humanoid shape. You would undo eons of careful planning, it raged. The physical races must be guided, harvested, controlled. No, Naira countered, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. They must be free to choose their own path, as we chose ours. The chamber erupted in chaos as more of the dark beings manifested, launching attacks of pure entropy against the temple's defenses. Cashin found himself moving with impossible speed, his borrowed powers letting him fight alongside Lyra against the invaders while Naira began an intricate energy pattern in the chamber's center. Whatever you're going to do, he called to her, do it fast. Through their connection, he felt her internal struggle. To activate the temple's full power, she would have to fully embrace her transformed state, losing her physical form forever. Losing any chance of a future with him. Naira, he said softly, knowing she could hear him even over the battle. Your people need you. She met his eyes one last time, her love and regret flowing through their bond. Then she began to sing, an impossible melody that resonated with the temple itself. The crystal walls amplified the sound, sending it rippling through space-time. Across the galaxy, Etherians felt the call of their ancient power. Ships stopped in mid-flight as their crews transformed. Hidden enclaves of purebloods emerged from secret sanctuaries. Even Carrion, watching from his flagship, felt the corruption burn away as original truth of his being reasserted itself. The dark beings screamed in rage as their carefully manipulated pawns slipped from their control. They launched a final, desperate attack on the temple, only to be met by waves of transformed Shadow Core warriors, their combined power now more than a match for their former masters. In the chaos, Cashin fought his way to Naira's side. Her transformation was nearly complete, her physical form barely visible within the stellar fire of her true self. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice everywhere and nowhere. I wanted. I know. He reached for her one last time, feeling the heat of her energy against his palm. I wanted that too. Lyra appeared beside them, her own transformation half complete. Sister, it's time. The temple is ready. Naira nodded, then turned to Cashin. The evidence is in you now, everything we discovered, everything we learned. The Alliance needs to know the truth about what's been happening. I'll make sure they do, he promised. And Cashin? Her energy caressed his face one final time. Thank you for showing me that love isn't bound by physical form. With that, she surrendered herself completely to the transformation. The temple flared with blinding light as its power reached a crescendo. Through the view screen, they watched as suns stabilized across the galaxy, the dark being's influence burning away under waves of purifying energy. The Etherian people faced their choice: remain physical or return to their original form. Most chose transcendence, understanding that their civilization's time in physical form had reached its natural end. A few, like some of the younger generation, chose to remain corporeal, accepting the loss of power in exchange for continuing their interactions with other races. Lyra, her transformation halted halfway, made her own choice. Someone needs to bridge the gap, she told Cassian as the temple's power began to fade. To help the physical races understand what happened here. Besides, she smiled, my sister asked me to keep an eye on you. As the transformed Etherians departed for their new existence, Cassian felt Nyra's presence one last time, not as the woman he'd known, but as a being of pure starlight, touching his consciousness with eternal love before joining her people in transcendence. The temple, its purpose fulfilled, began to fade from physical space. As Lyra guided them back to normal space in a borrowed ship, Cassian watched the stars burning bright and true in the void. Somewhere out there, Nyra and her people were watching over the galaxy, no longer bound by physical form but eternally present in the starlight itself. He had a story to tell, a truth to reveal, and a promise to keep. And every night, when he looked up at the stars, he would remember the princess who chose to save not just her own people, but all people, no matter the personal cost. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter that day, as if in celebration of their new guardians. And in the end, that was enough.